Are you one of those people who does everything possible to avoid making a sales call that you know you need to make to grow your business? Or are you someone where your mind is full of all sorts of negative, fear-filled beliefs that have you struggling with somebody saying no to you? Well, today in this program, we have two sales masters with us, both of us in very different businesses. And our intention by the end of the show is to help you take the fear out of selling and wanting you to pick up that phone or get in front of somebody and ask for the order. So my name is Dana Smithers, and I love doing these hangouts with women entrepreneurs that I know. I feel very blessed to know such amazing women out there. And my hangout shows are all about educating, inspiring, and empowering you to live a better life, create a successful business. So in the next 45 minutes, as I said, our topic today is about taking the fear out of selling. And I am a certified law of attraction trainer and business coach. So the coaching clients that I'm working with, I mean, absolutely, I'm getting them clear on their ideal client. We're creating a marketing plan because we all need to spend a lot of time on how we're going to get what our message is, how we get it out there. But as Shannon and Andrea are going to tell you, it's all about making the sale, because if we don't get the business, we basically have a hobby. So if you're interested in finding out more, let's stay tuned. And I would like to introduce Sales Master Mentor Shannon Ward. And Shannon's going to tell you a little bit about her experience and who her clients are. And then Andrea Turner, who is a master network direct marketing salesperson. So very different places they come from. But nonetheless, we are all in the same business to get sales. So Shannon, please introduce yourself. Tell us where you live and what you do.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm Shannon Ward from On Track Sales. I live in beautiful Whistler, British Columbia, though it's very stormy today, so not quite as beautiful as normal. And I am a sales mastery mentor. And so what I'm actually known for is turning entrepreneurs who either hate or fear selling into sales whizzes, who actually love selling. It becomes one of their most favorite things to do in their business. And as you said, Dana, without sales, there is no business. So this is my mission, to save as many businesses as possible through sales success.
Excellent. I love that. Thanks so much. And Andrea, welcome. All the way from Australia, but not in Australia right now.
Yeah. Oh, I just lost my mic. Okay, well, yes. No, I'm not. I am from Australia, but I now live in New Westminster, British Columbia, and I've been here for less than 2 years from Melbourne. And I have been in direct sales for almost 23 years. I started my direct sales career, however, in Vancouver, Canada, 23 years ago. So I'm back where it all began, and I am enjoying my role with a new company called Shannon International, who is they are a skincare and long-lasting cosmetic company. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. It is, because it's quite new, it is always challenging when you're with a new company. So this is where you do need that no fear to be present. So
right,
yeah. So I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks, Andrea. So what were your sales before? Were you with what companies were you with in Australia?
I was with since 1993. I was with Tupperware for 20 years. Yes. Yeah. And so I was a leader in the company, eventually a franchise owner.
Right.
Yeah. So I had a big team of people that I mentored, trained, regularly.
Right. And so now you're doing the same thing with the Senegence products.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Good.
So I have a team that I'm building here and in Australia. So I have a large team in Australia that I look after remotely. Yeah.
Good. That's a big love this worldwide stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Andrea's role is kind of twofold, because she's got to recruit salespeople to join her team, but then she's also got to train them. And I know that both Shannon and Andrea are trainers, sales trainers as well. So that's that's just part of something that we have to do. But what we're talking about today, some of it is absolutely around the fears that people have about the rejection and how they're not really looking at it in a way that's actually going to allow them to be out there and really be excited about the product that they're going. So Shannon has a very unique approach to this. So I invite you to have pen and paper ready, because we're going to give you, there could be 100 tips about taking the fear out of selling, but we had to narrow it down, so we've got 5 top tips here. So Shannon's going to start us off with talking about service and how to reset the mind about what it is that you're doing out there when you approach someone. So tell us about that, Shannon, what tip number 1 is.
Sure. So this is the tip that actually completely changed how I approach sales, and not only enabled me to feel really great about the sales that I was doing, but it actually increased my sales exponentially, and the success of my business exponentially. And it came down to one thing, is that I used to feel like I was doing something to someone when I sold to them. And what I realized was that actually wasn't true. Now I believe that fundamentally, if you are selling to the right person, so your ideal client,
right,
sales is an act of love. And it is the most kind thing that you can do for that other person if you truly believe that what you're selling is going to make a positive impact in their life. And so from that place, we can show up from a sales perspective simply with one intention, and that is to leave the person in front of us better than we found them. And if we come to the sales table with that intention, then it takes so much of the pressure off of us to close or to convince them or all of those things that we think we need to do with sales, when in fact all we are responsible for is leaving that person better than we found them.
Wow, that's a fabulous way to put it. And Shannon, I know a little bit about your story, which I wouldn't mind if you would share it, how your partner left the company and what you started to experience from that, because that's a real life scenario there.
Sure, yeah. So I was able to build my company On Track up to 7 figures in 3 short years with my business partner. And as you can imagine, that involved a lot of selling. And we continued to grow the business for the next 10 years. So I had a dirty little secret, though, that I didn't even tell her. And that was that I actually really hated selling. Every time I went into a sales meeting, I would have to talk myself down from a ledge, because I, again, felt like I was doing something to someone that was not good. And I felt like I had to put on a mask in order for that to be okay, and pretend to be someone that I wasn't in order for that person to want to buy from me. And 10 years of that was really soul-sucking. And so as life will do, it gave me a kick in the pants, and that was when my business partner unexpectedly left the business. And all of a sudden, I wasn't able to hide behind her anymore. I had to actually sell as Shannon. And that brought all of these internal issues home for me, and I got paralyzed. I actually almost, there were 6 months when I really had a very, very low close rate, and I risked losing my business. And I realized that what I had to do was find a way to feel good about doing sales, because I knew how to sell, no question. I had sold millions of dollars in services. It was completely about how I felt about what I was doing.
Beautiful. Love that. So yeah, that's such a powerful story. So the tip number 1 is service first, right? You're not doing something to someone. You want to leave that situation better than you found them. And for me, I like to make sure that I'm educating someone, and then they can make that choice.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
yes.
perfect.
Even if the answer is no, you win if that person feels like they're leaving better than they came.
Right. Excellent. Thanks, Shannon. Okay, Andrea, let's go to tip number 2 then.
Okay, well, this kind of really follows on from what Shannon just said. She talks about service first, and, about feeling, I guess, intimidated or feeling like you might be pushing somebody into something that they don't want. So what I believe is so important is to never feel that you need to push anybody. If you actually believe in what you're doing, believe in the product, believe in what you're offering somebody, exactly as Shannon said, you are offering them something awesome, right? Something great. And you need to look at it differently, because so many people look at it and they think, I don't want to push my friends, I don't want to push people I know.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that, right? If you actually are just true to yourself, and you just stay true, you stay who you are, and you be excited about what you're doing, it's catching. People see that, they sense that, and they never feel like they're being pushed into
Right.
something, right? When you are just being true to who you are. So it's
Right.
just to take away the mindset that you are actually going to be pushing somebody into buying something or pushing somebody into joining you in the business. Because I know personally for me, it's been my number one fear, really, is to, I don't want anybody ever to think that I'm a pushy person, right? So I think, always went out of my way to never be that person.
Right.
And because you sometimes you hear about, oh, she's so pushy, that person's so
Yeah.
pushy. I never wanted to be that person.
Right.
I would just be so mortified. So I think it was something I was very conscious of. So I just tried to be who I am and love what I do.
Right.
And I think that's so important. You've got to be passionate about what you're doing and love what you do. So you have to find that thing that makes you excited,
Right.
right? And when you
Exactly.
feel that, you know you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. And thanks so much for that, Andrea. So tip number 2 is shift your perspective. And we could also say shift your mindset, because what Andrea's talking about, as far as the law of attraction goes, when you think you're being pushy, this is the vibe you're giving off. You don't feel good, and the law of attraction's job is to match vibrations. So chances are, if you're going into that sales call, you're not feeling good, you're not feeling confident, maybe you don't even like your product. That's the vibe you're sending off. So chances of your success rate are very low when you feel like that. But the reverse of that, or the opposite of that, of course, is when you got the positive vibe. When we feel excited, like we want to be cheerleaders of our own business, right? So when we feel excited about the product, I know Andrea and Shannon personally. I love Shannon's approach to things. I love her mannerisms. I love the way she talks. She's not pushy, but I sure would, if I needed more help with sales or I had a team, there's no question I would hire her, because I really feel like I know, like, and trust her. So that's when I want to buy, not pushy. Andrea has a totally different personality. Andrea's a little bit more outgoing, and she's a little bit sassy, and a little bit of spice in there as well. Never pushy. When I first met Andrea, and by the way, I am wearing one of the lip sense products that doesn't wreck your cup, and it stays on for hours even when you eat. I just love her, and I love promoting her as well. So I would never see her as pushy. I see her as joyful. I see her as someone who's exuberant about the product she's selling.
Yes.
Never pushy. So when you're in that place and you feel good, and we're going to talk about, well, how do you get to that? I always said, a little bit about my experience. I was a sales manager for a billion-dollar company, and I had all of Western Canada, so I had 11 branches. So I trained all the account reps, branch managers, all of that. And on the days when, and it was mainly women, when they didn't feel well or they were in a negative space, I would just say, do some paperwork, do us all a favor, just do a little bit of paperwork, because I don't want you out there with those clients today, because the rip in the pantyhose, when we used to wear pantyhose, and all of that, and maybe they didn't even put their makeup on that day. I'd rather that you kind of did something more productive, because I want you feeling this way. Because when you're feeling positive, that's when you're going to attract more business. And even if you don't get the business, it's not always the end goal. It's not always the intention. As Shannon said, like for me, before I would make any sales call, or even in the business that I'm in right now as a business coach, I always set my intention. If I'm going to talk with someone, or I'm going to meet someone at a networking event, what's my intention? Sometimes it's just that expression, leave the world a bit better place because I was in it. Right? The same kind of thing that Shannon's saying. We're not selling anything. Maybe sometimes it's even, you forget about closing on anybody and you just listen, right? I mean, sometimes you have to go with the flow of the conversation.
Can
Yeah.
I just speak to one other point on that for a second, Dan?
Yes.
It's okay. The other thing about coming into any sales conversation with that intention is that you create a potential referral partner for anyone you meet. Therefore, every sales conversation that you ever have can result in sales for you, even if it isn't that exact person that is going to buy from you. So if we come to the table from that perspective, we actually win from a sales perspective, even if they don't close at that moment
Exactly.
either.
Yeah, and that's perfectly true. And it may not be the time for them to buy, but
Yes.
it could be down the road because there are other factors, reasons why we get a no. So that's a nice segue into tip number 3, Shannon. So I love this one, and I love the way you languaged it. So let's go to tip number 3. This is a beautiful one.
Oh, thank you. This was a big lesson for me as well, because that was, part of the reason why I felt that I had to put on a mask in order to sell for 10 years was because I held the belief that someone needs to really like me, probably love me, in order to buy from me. And if they didn't like my hair, maybe they wouldn't buy from me. If I said the wrong thing, maybe they wouldn't buy from me. What if we didn't, connect on the deepest level? They wouldn't buy from me. And that is completely untrue. What I've realized and experienced since I let go of that belief is that, yes, connection is essential for sure. But that doesn't mean that we have to be best friends with every one of our prospects in order for them to buy from us.
Right.
Our responsibility is to come to the table and communicate a clear solution to a pain that they have. And if we do that and we make a connection, that's all that's required. They don't have to be best buds with us. We don't have to be BFFs.
Right. And I love the way you're talking about connecting there. And that's really important to know because if you go in that with that intention, I know even as a sales manager, not everybody was my friend or did I have a really strong connection with. Some people absolutely. And when I left corporate, they became friends even after that. But the fact that whatever we're finding that solution to their pain or to their problem, that's why they're meeting with us. Chances are otherwise they wouldn't be. I just wanted to talk a minute here about the communication styles. So you can also go to my blog, empoweredwomeninbusiness.com, and go to my blog section. I've been doing a few blogs on communication styles, and there are 4 styles. So some people respond to visual more than anything else. Some people are auditory, so they are going to be listening and hearing what you're saying. So if the people for visuals, you may even want to have a presentation binder or some visuals that you could show them, or when you follow up with them, put some kind of visual in that. So there's people who are auditory, they're more listening to what you're saying, sounds good, those kinds of things. And then there's the kinesthetic people. So the kinesthetics are the warm and fuzzy. They like to connect. They like to be part of a team. They like to know that you're going to do the best for them. And they also like to have fun. So that's a different personality type. And then there's the digital. And these are the thinkers. So when you're doing that kind of, you want to connect, they're more interested in the facts. They're the step-by-step process people. And, we all have one of those styles. So when you're going in, if you are, it's up to you to build that rapport of, how are you going to connect? Because you can tell right off the bat whether or not there's a connection. So I invite you to take a look at that blog post on communication styles, and there's also a link for you to find out what your communication style is, because, if you're only talking to that 125%, you're missing out on the other 75. And that's why when I mentioned earlier about marketing, we've got to be doing all sorts of marketing. There's never just one way to market our business. And that's a whole other talk, which we're not going to go into right now. But Andrea, let's talk about this fear that people have of hearing the word no or rejection. And we know that fear can stand for false evidence appearing real. So tell us about that, because I'm sure that you've trained hundreds and hundreds of, I suspect mostly women. Have that been mainly on your team,
Yeah.
Andrea?
Yeah.
And that fear of rejection, somebody saying no, it can really, when some people hear that, this is kind of where they're going when they hear it. It's like, oh, okay, I'm done. But a no it can very much be this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
So, it is, especially when you're talking to somebody who's new in the direct selling industry, who hasn't had to make calls, speak to people, and ask the questions. When somebody says no to them, they can get upset. They feel like, oh my gosh, I've offended somebody. So it really is about teaching someone. Well, firstly, always to try not to ask the yes no questions, right? They have to
So
ask
the
a question
open-ended ones, yeah.
yeah, they have to ask a question that is going to get them a completely different answer to a yes or a no that hopefully will lead to a yes, right? And another thing they have to do is practice, because if they don't practice it and they don't get any answer to start with if they don't practice, but they're going to get no's, and the sooner people realize that they're going to get no's, and it's not to be taken offensively, it's just that right now it's not a good time for that person, right? And a no doesn't always mean no. That's the other thing that people often think, well, when somebody says no, that's the end of it, right? It's often not the end of it. It's, you've already said in this conversation, I think maybe Shannon did, it might not be the right time right now for that person. So they have to, take away that feeling that they're offending somebody. And the only way to do that is to practice, practice, practice. They've got to keep trying. I know it was my fear. Like, I'll be honest, that was my fear. Was I didn't want to offend somebody. I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want to hear the no. And so I had to learn to use open-ended questions, right? And practice those different questions in my head over and over again. And I think it's just the only way to do that is actually to make the calls. Do it. And when it actually turned around, my business turned around for me, was when I actually made the time twice a week to go and sit and what we called focus. You had to focus on making the call. And I did it on a Monday and a Friday. And I had to go no matter what. It was in my diary. Nothing else could go over the top. And I had to sit there and make those calls. And often there was other people there. And that was my other fear. I didn't want to make calls in front of somebody, right? Yeah. But it just totally overcame all my fears of the no, talking in front of somebody else. And my business went from, it seriously, like, tenfold. It just turned my whole business around, because I got beyond that fear of making the call, number one, and secondly, hearing a no, right? It didn't matter, move on, go to the next one, right? And it is just practice. It really is practicing the open-ended questions, how to better ask somebody to be, part of your business, or would they have you in their home? Different questions, but yeah.
Okay. So that's perfect. And what I'd like to do, just for some people may not be aware of what an open-ended question is or a closed question is. So Andrea, give us an example of an open-ended question that, let's say you're at a trade show where I met you, I'm walking over to look at your product. What might be a good open-ended question for me?
Well, I'm just trying to think. I'm at a trade show. I was thinking more of if I was at a party or I was in a situation.
Sure, party or whatever. Yeah.
Well, what I would tend to say to somebody is, we would love to, meet you and your friends. How do you feel about that? Having me over. So I would not just say, will you have a party? Right. If you say to somebody, will you have a party? They're always going to say no. Right. Always. Well, everyone's first reaction is no, right? To anything we tend to ask people. So I would say, what, I'd really love to come to your home and do a party for you, with you and a few friends. How do you feel about that?
Right. So then we're getting into some close there, or trial closes. We'll talk about those in a minute. But just to get back to the idea about hearing the no, always when I was training, I'd say, well, have you ever said no to anybody?
Exactly.
And have you said it, have you then maybe down the road gone back to that person and now it turns into a yes? So Shannon, I would love to hear from you on this, because I know you do a lot of training around this, that rejection and hearing that no.
Yeah, so I completely agree with everything Andrea said. Definitely, it requires a lot of practice. It requires a lot of just getting. It's like a muscle. You need to
Yes,
get
yes.
comfortable with your reaction to when that no happens. And once you have 10 or 100 or, after 13 years in business, I'm sure I've heard thousands of no's in my
Yeah.
career, and that's the reason why I'm successful, is because I'm willing to go through the no's in order to get to the yeses. It's part of the game. But the other part of it is not to take it personally. That no is not a no to you as a person. It is a no to what you have offered at that moment, nothing more. And so if we can continue to really have that coming from a place of service and understanding that what we're offering is not meeting that person's needs at this moment, that's okay.
Yes.
It may at a later date.
Right. Perfect. Exactly. And just something I'd like to add here about the law of attraction. Um, I teach people this 3-step formula for manifesting more of what you want. So the first one is to identify what you want. So that could be your ideal client, your sales, your targets, how profitable you want to be, and then you raise your vibration by, saying desire statements about how you feel. It's kind of futuring, right? I'm in the process of creating a fantastic sales presentation, and I'm so excited about it, right? So we want to start lifting ourselves up and running the movie. What's it going to feel like when they do sell? But the most important step in that 3-step process of identifying, raising the vibration, is allowing it. So what we need with law of attraction, in order to allow, is we have to remove the doubt that it's possible. So if you're going into the call or saying, well, they're never going to buy from me. It's not going to work. Nobody's ever going to want to have a Senegent's party. And if you're in the corporate field, well, the last time I went there, they practically threw me out of the office. All this stuff's going on in your head. So you kind of have to, set that intention. Think about what's it going to feel like when they do buy from you. Because I always said with my salespeople, once it starts rolling, you got the momentum. Keep making the sales calls, because those no's are like, whatever. You're on to the next person. But with the law of attraction and allowing it, if you get in front of someone and they give you that time, for me, that's reason to celebrate, because they've allowed you to get into their space. They're interested. Even if it's a trade show or you're picking up the phone to talk to someone, if they've said, yeah, give me a call, let's connect, I'd like to connect, whether you're doing that referral meeting or whatever. So with law of attraction, we always say celebrate the closeness of the match. You may find you get the no. That's perfectly okay. We got the no. That's all good. But we just say thank you, thank you, thank you, because expressing gratitude is a very high vibration thing. And then I always just say, okay, next.
Yeah.
Right?
Next.
Just close the door on that one. Just say next. Say thank you, next. But, it's all about getting that momentum going. So, Shannon, I'm going to come back to you for just a minute here and talk about a little bit about when you're doing a meeting and you end up having a referral meeting with someone. What do you want to do, for follow-up? Because I know you are the gal that's all about systems, right?
Yes.
There's got to be a system, and I think follow-up is probably the weakest link. Would you agree?
For most people,
Yeah.
aside from maybe asking for the sale, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, follow-up is where we can succumb to our little voices in our head, right? This is the area where we're alone now, and it's up to us to continue driving this sale to
Right.
the end point, whether it's a yes or a no or a maybe. And we really don't want a maybe. I'd rather a no than a maybe any day.
So and explain that, because the maybes are the lingerers.
Exactly. And if you really are truly coming from a place of service for someone else, leaving them in a place of maybe does them no service at all, because you haven't progressed them in one way or another. They're still in the same place where you found them, and so you really didn't help them to clarify what they wanted and move forward. If the moving forward is away from you, that's okay, as long as they're moving forward. But the maybe is not moving forward. So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, I love that. And also, that's a great thing for women to empower themselves as well, right? Being on the other side of that sales call. If it's a no, I just said no to somebody yesterday, and it felt so good
Yes.
because I didn't want to have any further conversation with this person.
Yeah.
And saying the no, I felt so empowered and good, and the other person didn't feel offended. It's just like, no, I don't need the product, not interested, right?
Right. And I think you've hit on something as to why, women specifically have trouble hearing no. It's because we have trouble saying no.
Yeah.
It's the flip side of the same coin.
Yeah, that's very valid. I mean, I very much have, I don't like saying no to people either. I'm a softie, right?
Well, no, but
because you think you're offending them, right? Yeah. It's the same thing.
It's interesting because that's, for you, Andrea, you've used that word a lot, that you don't take it personally, but that you don't offend them. So that's part of your personality and your makeup, and you're very kinesthetic that way, right? Because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. Yeah. So that to you means something. Someone else just saying the no to you, they may just be fine with it, right? So we've got to be mindful of that.
Yeah,
great. Good. Yeah. Thanks. So tip number 5 is, Shannon alluded to it a little bit, is let's not forget to ask for the sale. Right? Because we can have the most marvelous time. We're doing trial closes and we're getting yeses and the heads nodding and like they're getting interested, they're moving forward closer to you and all of that, and they're just like, okay, where do I sign up? And you don't ask.
Yeah.
So you leave them feeling incomplete, and what are you going to miss out on if you don't ask for that sale? Well, it could be one sale, it could be many sales, it could be great referrals, it could be all of that. So we have to remember to ask for the sale, but we also want to ask for the sale not when you start out. Again, with Shannon and Andrea, it's all about systems, right? We've got to get into a nice place where we're building that rapport, and then it feels appropriate to ask for that. So, Shannon, I'd like you to address that too. So tell us, when you are working with corporate and a team, with a sales team, because I know you do that. You do individually with entrepreneurs, but also with a team. So how do you work with them, teaching them that, asking that question?
Sure. And, it's interesting because you think with professional salespeople that they would ask for the sale, right? That they've been somehow trained to do that. But it's fascinating that it is human nature to avoid doing that at all costs. And so I think that it actually speaks to why a lot of enterprise sales take so long to close, is because there isn't ever that actual explicit ask. The salesperson does a good job of getting through most of the sales, so let's say 80% of the way. Yeah. They drive, they are the driver. It's important.
And they're handling the objections.
Yeah, they take control until the point where it needs to come to a yes or a no. And that's when they, whether they're an enterprise salesperson or I find it with solopreneurs, it's basically everyone, that's where we take our foot off the gas. And we think to ourselves, I'll let them make this decision. They have enough information. I've given them everything they need. Now it's up to them. And that's where the big mistake is that it's your responsibility as a salesperson to make a clear offer of moving forward, and they get to make a choice from there. It is not their responsibility to say to you, I want to do this. How do we do this? Can we do this now? Are we going to do this? That is not their job. It's your job to make a clear offer.
Right. Oh, I absolutely love that. I was coaching someone yesterday, and we were having this conversation, and I said, so how did you end the sales call? And she said, well, I said, I'd follow up in a couple of weeks. I'm just like, okay, well, that is one strategy, but I don't really find that strategy works, because anybody that's given, first of all, like you said, you're no longer the driver. You've literally taken your foot off the gas. And if you've given them 2 weeks, what do you think is going to go on in their head? Probably, most people are going to be changing their mind about it, and they'll get back with some excuse. And often that excuse, well, usually it's, time or money they don't have. A lot of people say, well, I've thought about it, but it's not really the time to do it, or it's a little bit more than I wanted to pay, or something like that. So you've lost all the energy
Yes.
that went along with all that time that you spent together. So, waiting the 2 weeks, or as you just said, Shannon, if you're leaving it to them to make the decision, why are you doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you may not get to the yes that you're looking for. And they may be walking away thinking, and I've had it happen. It's like, well, they never asked for the sale, so I'll just go find someone that, and you do, if it's a comparable product, right? It's like, you know what, I'm going to go to this person. And we might even say, well, I like them better, because they always just say, okay, which one do you want, kind of thing,
Yes.
and then we're done. So
I've heard
Andrea,
it so many times. I've heard, she never asked me.
yeah,
She never asked me. So it's true, absolutely, what Shannon said. You do all that work, you build that rapport, you get them where you think that they will buy, or they will sign up, or they will, whatever the situation, and then you don't ask, right? So it's so, and I think, yeah, it is a big fear of many people, is to actually ask that final, or the close,
right.
do the close. And it's just, again, not asking an open-ended question, not asking a yes/no question, asking an open-ended question. And, I mean, for me, if I meet somebody and I think they'd be great on my team, I'd tell them that. I say, you would be so fabulous at this. I would love to have you on my team.
Yeah.
Let's make a time for a coffee. You haven't asked them for a yes/no. You've just said, let's get together.
Right. So we're just starting the relationship process.
Okay, let's make a time. Right. You get that, and that's it. You've got that time. If they agree to that time, you've got them. Right.
Right.
So it's just, it is so important, and it gets left so many times.
Right.
Because people are, again, frightened of the no. Right?
The rejection.
That they're going to actually say no, but so many people are ready. They're ready to say yes.
Yeah.
And it never actually gets to that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I know. Thanks, Andrea, for that. I know one of the things that I used to teach as well when I was in corporate sales, but I'll still use it now when I'm looking for my own clients, and but we have to remember that it's a process, right? Sometimes you're going to get a yes. You might just have to do what we call one sales call, and they've made a decision. But remember, sales is really, I call it relationship building. I don't even like to use the word sales, because for some people it scares them, but we're building relationships, so that's going to take time. And that's why I love doing the networking that a lot of us women do, because it's like going in and thinking of marrying someone. They're not going to marry you on that first date. So get to know them, earn their respect, right? Have the coffees, get together. You might be surprised. I've met with people just thinking I was doing a referral meeting, and then they've hired me because they like me so much, or I didn't know they had this pain going on that I could solve for them, because they didn't really know what I did, and I love that. And one of the things doing trial close that I used to teach and still to use, if you've gone through and handled any objections that they might have to price or timing or whatever, but you're still getting a lot of yeses, it sounds like the head nodding, it's going to come to a yes at the outcome. We can always ask that question, is there anything holding you back from moving forward?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're not actually handling the real objection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the knowing how to do, offer your features and benefits, but then have them answer those objections, because it's often sometimes it's not even close to what you think it is. So we need, it's a nice soft way to trial close on someone. So is there anything that I've talked to you about today that would prevent you from moving forward? Right? It's a nice.
I've actually used that a lot, Dana, and
yes.
Especially in my software business, because we did have a little book that we followed, and we told them the features and the benefits, and and then I would say to them at the end, is there any reason or anybody that would be would think this wasn't for you? Because often, a husband could be, right?
Yes.
And they would say, well, look, I have to talk to my husband, and I would always say to them, well, what do you think he might think is not right? You know, I wanted them to tell me, because when I rang them the next day because they wanted to speak to their husband, I wanted to then say, well, how did your husband feel about that? You know, because often if you didn't ask them what do they think might be an objection from somebody, they just
Exactly.
make something up, right?
Yes.
So this way, you actually can say, well, how did your husband feel about it? You know, you've kind of got around that no, if you know what I mean. So it's
Yes.
really what you just said then is so relevant. Is actually asking them what might be a reason that
Right.
this wouldn't be for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shannon, anything to add to that one?
Yes, so I think this is a major area of fear as well for people, right? Is they
Yeah.
take an objection personally.
Yes.
And an objection, if we reframe it, is actually a really clear indicator that that person probably does want to work with you, but they
Yes.
need to answer some questions within their own mind
Right.
to feel 100% in alignment with their decision. And again, it's your job to step them through that, despite how uncomfortable it might get. Because when we ask someone to take a step, especially, if you're a coach or if it's a really, high ticket item, that person needs to feel 100% in alignment in order to take that step. And they might have to work through some stuff to get there.
Exactly.
And it's your job to walk them through that. And so if you can do that powerfully, not only do you get to a yes, but the start of that relationship of having them as a client starts from a place of deep connection and deep
Yes.
trust, which puts you in an even better position to be successful with that person.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really well said. And Andrea, I do agree with you. I know when I used to be in the interior decorating, home staging world, and women were looking at become decorators or stagers, and sometimes they would say, well, I have to check with my husband, and or my partner or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of really ask them the question, well, is this something that you really want to do, and is that really the objection? Because as we know, some people will sort of pick something out of the sky or what. And instead of saying they're not empowered to say no, that's just not right for me this time, but I loved meeting with you. I know that down the road I'll be able to refer you, right? But they come up with kind of flimsy, wishy-washy excuses. And I think that during the call. And there's no reason to probe anymore, in my opinion. It's like, you know what? I think this is not my ideal client here, right? Because I also like people that are, very much in integrity, very much empowered, and able to make good business decisions as well, even if they have to think about it. I'm okay with that, but trying to pick an excuse or a reason why something you can't move forward, I think you just have that fear of saying no to that person who's doing the asking. Yeah. So Shannon, how about words of wisdom, something that you'd like to leave for the viewers?
Sure. So I'm going to go back to the first point, if that's okay. And that's and that comes back to coming from a place of service. If we let ourselves get in the way of making clear offers to people who could be positively impacted by us, that is not very responsible. We brought our businesses into this world to make a difference, to make an impact. And the only way that that is possible is if we can clearly communicate to our ideal clients what we can do for them, and then offer them a choice to move forward to that better place that we're trying to create in the world. So if sales is an issue for you, if sales is a problem for you, please get this solved, because the impact that you're trying to make in the world is being dampened by the fact that you're not able to successfully have these conversations. And once you learn how, it changes absolutely everything.
Yeah. It's the game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also love how you were talking about being the driver. That I like that analogy, like step on the gas, let's move forward. And if you think of driving, there might be a few times you have to stop. That's okay, right? And then we move forward, and then keep that foot on the gas pedal there, and stay with it and move there. So Sharon, how can people get in touch with you?
So you can get in touch with me through my website, which is ontrackco.com. So that's ontrackco.com. And there you'll find information about a program that I have called Business Growth Success. and it's all around these issues. It's basically a primer for learning how to sell confidently and effectively if perhaps you didn't come into your business with a sales degree.
Right. Which most people don't, right?
People don't.
I know.
Yeah. Exactly. Great. Thank you so much, Shannon. And Andrea, any final words of wisdom here?
Well, I think for me it does go back to the, hearing the no question and practicing.
Practicing.
Keep on
Yeah.
practicing. Keep on doing. Keep on keeping on, because
Right.
it's so easy sometimes. People think I'll just give up, right?
Yeah.
Because they haven't got the answers they want. But if you aren't actually practicing and doing, you're never going to get yes answers. You're never going to get those people, dating shows, joining your team. You've got to keep practicing, and you've got to never give up. I mean, I'm always looking for the next opportunity, next place I can go. It's just every day on my mind. Where am I going next? What have I got? What have I got on this week? And who do I have to call? And keeping a record of when somebody says, "Well, call me back." Well, okay. Well, when's a good time to call you back? Don't just say, "Oh, well, I'll call you in a few weeks." Right? It's actually just keep on keeping on. Keep good records, and keep doing it. So yeah,
Excellent.
that's my mind.
And how can people get in touch with you?
So my website is www.lastingcolor, spelt the Canadian way, our.com. And on that site you will find everything to do with Synergence International. I've just started a new blog on my website too. So
terrific.
Yeah, I would love people to check it out, and if they have anything that they would like to talk to me about, all the details are there.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you so much. And for like Shannon has a fabulous product, and as she says, it's sales isn't something that most people just learn innately. It's not there. Some of the skills that are required can be there in your personality, but I know Shannon's all about the systems and the processes, and the same with Andrea, that these are with her company. I'm sure that you get the script, you get the features and benefits, and it's all done for you, right? It's really up to you to decide, is that the right business for you? And then the practice. Sales is just all about practice. And for me, with my clients, what I like to get them focused on the most is, who is that ideal client? Because sometimes if we're not really sure who that is, then we can spend a whole lot of time all in the wrong places. And coming up with a marketing plan that has the right message is super important, and all of that is great. That's how people get to know who you are. You educate, you inform, but we don't grow a business without the sales. So we have to ask that. And actually, I feel inspired. I think I'm gonna make some sales calls today. So
Me too.
I think that's just great. I love the driver analogy. That's gonna stay in my mind for quite a while. So, ladies, I thank you so much for being on my hangout today. And this will be recorded, so people that don't always have the time when I do my hangout shows of watching it, but live, but we'll post it. And I think this will be really, really helpful for a lot of people. And ladies, expect some calls. All right. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.